Bel is one step closer to developing his harem, after just having saved the beautiful Lily from ants. Then, Bel touches her ears and tells her that he was not sure that shape-shifting magic existed, so she should lay low as everyone will think that she died in the dungeon and will not suspect her. Then she asks him if he is comfortable with this, since as she took advantage of his kindness and betrayed him. Surprisingly, Bel smiles and tells her not to worry about it as he is not angry with her, and tells her he has forgiven her. They arrive at Bel's house and Lily immediately introduces herself to Hestia, who begins to ask her if she is very capable of supporting Bel since she is his supporter. Lily assures and tells her that she will protect him with her life. Then, Hestia tells her she will believe her, but also informs her that she hates her because she has deceived Bel for so long and now she has returned to try and win her over. Immediately, Lily begins to feel bad after hearing these words from Hestia, as she begins to feel guilty of all that has been said to her. After a minute of silence, Hestia starts to beg her to take care of Bel as she would not want anything to happen to him. Also, Hestia tells her to prove herself and making up for what she has caused him. At that moment, Bel gets back from making tea for the girls and Hestia suddenly takes his hands and places it on her melons, which surprises him, but he decides to play along. Just then, Hestia introduces herself to Lily and tells her not to come between her and Bel. On hearing this, Lily immediately takes off her robes and grabs Bel by the hand. She is determined not to lose him to the goddess and is ready to fight her for him. Finding himself in this situation, Bel panics and rushes out of the building to see Ina, while he leaves the girls to argue. Bel arrives at the guild and immediately begins to look for Ina, but he notices that she is not anywhere to be found, until he suddenly hears his name, and when he turns to see who is calling him, he sees Ina with eyes and begins to run. While he tries to escape, he stumbles on someone's chest, which makes eyes immediately flies up, and Bel accidentally uses his face to hit her, and begins to wonder what is happening. There, Eyes tells her that she only came there to return what he left at the dungeon while battling the Minotaur, and she also wants to apologize for allowing it to escape. Hearing this, Bel tells her he should be the one apologizing because he has always been avoiding her, after all she has done for him, and they both smile at each other. On her way out, Eyes tells him he is putting so much effort in dungeon diving, as she is surprised how he can reach the 10th floor so fast. Hearing this, Bel tells her getting to the 10th floor is nothing as he still has a lot to learn, since he does not have anyone to teach him how to fight. At that moment, Eyes decides to put it upon herself and offers to teach Bel how to fight, which surprises him. The following day, Eyes asks Bel what he would like to do first, but to begin with, she would like to see his weapon, then proceeds to ask him if he is good in hand-to-hand combat. While trying to explain, Bel receives a very huge kick on his face from Eyes, which swings him far away. Then, Bel realizes that Eyes is a blonde inside and out. Immediately, she apologizes and tells him that they need to spar. She draws out her weapon, but uses the sheath and notices that he is now actively looking at hers and begins to tell him why he always needs to be fierce in battle. While they fight, Eyes tells him that he lacks special skills in battle, but Bel assures her that they should continue. During the fight, Eyes notices he is trying to take advantage of a spot and decides she uses it against him. The following day, Bel and Lily go to the dungeon as usual, but on getting there, they are suddenly attacked by monsters, which Bel uses the teaching he got from Eyes, as well as Lily's help to take out. To their surprise, more monsters begin to show up from the smoke. Seeing this, Lily suggests they retreat so as to regroup, but Bel tells her that if he does that, he will not catch up with Eyes' skill. Then, he goes ahead to attack the monsters. Later, he returns back to his training with Eyes, where they continue to fight, and she keeps knocking him out over and over again. However, he wakes up for the last time and tells her he wants to stop, while she asks where he gets his strength from. He reveals to her that there is someone he is trying to be better than, who she tells him she totally understands. Then she tells him that they should practice napping because in the dungeon, he needs to learn how to fall asleep at any time. Suddenly, she lies down and falls asleep. At that moment, Bel sees a light appears and can hear his grandfather's voice, telling him to take advantage of the situation and kiss her. Hearing this, Bel begins to hesitate, until he hears another voice telling him not to, and he begins to think about doing it until Eyes wakes up. After the training, Eyes decides to take him to the city, while Bel wonders where she is taking him to. She, however, tells him that she is aware he is hungry, and she is too. Therefore, they need to get something to eat. Getting to the store, Bel sees Hestia, who, having seen him, immediately jumps on him and asks what he is doing with the lady, which he begins to apologize for. Later that evening, Belle tells Hestia everything going on between he and Ais, which makes her begin to threaten Ais not to go near him or even try to seduce him. That she jumps on him and places her cannon stone on his face. Because of this, Belle falls to the ground, and while Ais tries to help him up, Hestia shouts at her to get away from him. The following day, while Belle is walking alone in the street of the city, he surprisingly sees Caesar, who tells him how much she has missed him, and manages to trick him into washing plates for her. Noticing her trick, Belle decides to help, having realized it will help him take his mind off the things he has been thinking about lately, which has been bothering him. Suddenly, Ryu comes in and offers to help him, after seeing how much the work is for him to handle alone. While washing the plates, Belle asks Ryu how one can become stronger, which he decides to answer by telling him everything he ought to know about how he can become stronger. There she tells him he will need a party and some special skills if he wants to get stronger. Hearing this, Belle immediately sees that all she is saying is similar to what he has heard from Ais, and begins to ponder more about all Ryu is saying. Then, Ryu gives him an advice by telling him he is an adventurer and needs to disregard whatever is bothering him and focus on what is necessary to being an adventurer. Later at day, Belle goes back to the training, and Ais could see that he managed to counterattacks. After the training ends and Ais have left, Belle begins to have the determination that he has to catch up with Ais' skill, by working hard to get to that level. After, he goes back home to see Hestia to tell him that his training with Ais is over, as he begins to prepare to go for the expedition to the depth of the dungeon. At the entrance of the dungeon, they are grouped in two to hasten the exploration. Then they are asked to head in. In the dungeon, Belle and Lily are alone, until suddenly, Belle stops, having noticed that someone is watching them. He immediately tells Lily, who also confirms that something feels odd about the floor, and he tells her to follow him closely. As they continue to move, suddenly, they hear a loud noise coming towards them, and Belle sees it as a huge Minotaur. At that moment, Lily becomes scared as she wonders what it is doing on the ninth floor. Immediately, she advises Belle to follow her as they are not ready to fight the monster yet, but he has been carried away in his thought, until Lily calls his attention to what is happening around him. Unfortunately, the monster has gotten closer by this time and tries to attack Belle, but Lily pushes him away to save him. At that point, Belle stands up to see that Lily has been knocked out. He pushed her away and tries to use his firebolt to bring the monster down, but all to no avail. Then the monster pushes him away with its sword, which makes Belle realize that the monster is very strong for him to handle, and begins to seek for an opening for them to escape. Meanwhile, the other adventurers has learnt of the Minotaur on the 8th floor and have immediately moved out to go help Belle. Lily, on the other hand, wakes up to see that Belle is still battling the monster, but he instructs her to run away, which she immediately obeys. Knowing that if he attempts to run away also, the monster might kill Lily. Then he decides to continue fighting it. Eventually, the monster overpowers Belle after a series of attacks, and while Belle sees that he has been injured, he suddenly sees Ais, who had come to help him. At that moment, he believes he cannot allow her to save him again, and immediately stands up to fight the monster on his own. At that moment, the other adventurers show up and begin to worry about him, seeing that he is in level 1 and may not be able to handle the monster on his own. Suddenly, to their surprise, they see that he is actually beating the monster after taking down one of its hands. Then he uses its own blade to cut it in pieces, and uses his firebolt ability to take it out, while the other adventurers watch in awe and wonder how he is able to do it on his own. They become surprised and watch him as he passes out while standing, then go to check his stats, and they realize that all his abilities are ranked S, which makes them wonder who he is. Then they take him to his home, where Hestia will be able to look after him. The next morning, Belle wakes up to see Hestia by his side him, and they begin to talk about his achievements in defeating the monster, and how he has been ranked up to level 2. She also informs him about his newly gained special ability, the Argonaut ability. Hearing this, Belle becomes very excited, but when Hestia tells him the meaning to the skill he has acquired, he suddenly becomes ashamed because it's a skill for small adventurers. To encourage him, Hestia tells him it is not a bad skill, as he will have to know how it is applicable in battle. Suddenly, the goddess tells him that she is heading out, as she would like to go for the meeting of the gods, where they decide on the names they would call new adventurers that have ranked up like him. Arriving at the venue, Hestia hoped to get a very cute name for Belle. Meanwhile, Belle, who is at home, is already thinking of the cute name he will be given, and begins to fantasize about it. Soon, Hestia comes back and tells him that he is safe as she has picked a name for him, only for Bell to hear that his second name is Little Rookie. Hearing this, he does not seem happy about the name and decides to go out for a drink. There he meets Ryu, who congratulates him on leveling up and tells him she likes the name Little Rookie. She tells him he can drink up since he is celebrating his new name. Also, Bell realizes that people are talking about him, but Ryu tells him it is a sign of his popularity and hands him his drink. They begin to celebrate as Ryu advises him against going deeper into the dungeon. Meanwhile, Lily, who is also present, asks her if she thinks they cannot handle the depths of the dungeon alone. But then, Ryu tells them that the middle part of the dungeon has different monsters and crazy levels that one cannot accomplish on his own, and it might be very difficult for him as it is not a matter of skill. Also, she tells him to get a party so as to make things easy for him. But Bell tells her that getting a party will be too difficult for him, because he does not know anyone that would want to join. Suddenly, another adventurer in the tavern asks Bell to join their own party since they are all in level 2, and he should give Ryu and Sire to them. Bell refuses their offer, and Ryu immediately gets infuriated and slams of them on the floor with an hourglass. The adventurer then tries to grab her, but the owner of the restaurant immediately stops them and sends them out if they want to fight. The following day, Bell goes out to a shop in search of Krazo's armor. While looking for it in the shop, to his surprise, he meets with Krazo himself, whom he did not expect to see there. There, Krazo makes him an offer by promising to be Bell's blacksmith and make all his armor and weapons, but in exchange, he asks to be part of Bell's party. Surprised, Bell immediately accepts him without even thinking twice. The following day, while Bell and Lily set out into the dungeon, they begin to talk about Krazo and why he does not go on expeditions with his familia. Bell tells Lily that he might be an outcast as he begins to tell her about Krazo. On hearing this, Lily immediately tells Bell that Krazo's family were famous for making weapons and armors, but all of a sudden, they lost all their powers and abilities, and now they have nothing left. Suddenly, they see some orcs monsters coming out from the ground and begin to fight them, and to Bell's surprise, he realizes that he has gotten faster than before. Meanwhile, other adventurers have also spiced up their game because they have all been motivated by Bell. At that moment, the adventurers encounter a baby dragon and flee for their lives, but Bell uses his bolt ability with his new skill to kill the dragon. Realizing this, he becomes confused by this new ability and asks Hestia about the skill when he gets home. There she tells him it is his new skill that is making him that stronger, and while she tells him about his new ability, Bell asks if she has heard about the Krazo family. Hearing the name, she tells she has and begins to tell him all he needs to know about the family by telling him how powerful they are. The following day, due to the favor granted by Bell, Krazo decides to help him tweak his armor and make necessary changes to it. Then he takes him to his workshop and tells him about all that he can do. There, he sees the horn of the monster that he defeated and suggests that it be used to make a very good weapon for fighting, which Bell accepts. And with swift reaction, Krazo begins to make the weapons for Bell, and it becomes so uneasy, as it takes him all the whole night to make. Then, Krazo tells Bell to give it a name, and also tells him that he is aware that Bell might not trust him with everything, but he begs that he be spoken to like a friend. Hearing this, Bell accepts and promises to be a friend to him.